And now, instead of doing a traditional choke where I squeeze the elbows together, I'm gonna pull in and my shoulder's gonna go behind his head so I can get the tap. All right, guys, welcome back. We're gonna do another breakdown. Today I have Marshall back with me. We're gonna look at some fights that happened last night and talk about some of the jiu-jitsu techniques that happened, why they weren't prevented or why they weren't able to escape, and then we'll kind of study the positions from both bottom and the top. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so first thing I wanna cover is the basic modified rear naked choke, also known as the bulldog choke, also known as a Fedor choke. Why this was effective. Okay, guys, so the thing about MMA is the gloves, the 4-ounce gloves are pretty thick and they're very hard to finish. Also because it's no gi grappling, right? Like meaning there's no gi, the guys aren't wearing shirts. There's a lot of sweat, so it's really hard to get a traditional choke. A traditional rear naked choke would look something like this. I bring my arm across, my chin is aligned with his elbow, I grab my bicep, I sneak it behind his head, and I can squeeze. The problem with this, my gloves are too thick, so my opponent can grab my arm and stay real stuck, and I'm not in good shape here. So it's very hard to get a traditional rear naked choke. This is why a lot of the fighters use their gloves as leverage, and they sneak their elbow behind the back. So look what I'm gonna do. My palm is facing down, my outside palm is facing up, and I bring my elbow to the back of his upper back. And now, instead of doing a traditional choke where I squeeze the elbows together, I'm gonna pull in and my shoulder's gonna go behind his head so I can get the tap. The difference is a rear naked choke helps put the opponent to sleep by blocking carotid arteries. With this type of choke, I'm attacking more the windpipe, so it's a trachea choke. So they're still gonna go to sleep, but it's more painful. It's more painful, it's easier to slip because all I need is my wrist underneath their chin. Whereas a rear naked choke, I need to bring my elbow all the way aligned with his chin and bring it across. So what happened last night with the fighters is they were able to get the position and squeeze from multiple transitions into the fight. And we could talk about the first fight. Who was the fighter who?
It's Impa Kasanganay.
Okay, so Impa had a really good control, and what was interesting is he got the choke without hooks. So let's talk about why, because traditionally you want to get your hooks first before you apply a choke like that. And so let's talk about why he got it first, because I'm sure you might have questions about that. And then what are some preventatives and what are some escapes to kind of counter this movement. So let's go in turtle position. So while we're in this position here, the problem is to get the back is actually very tricky. I would have to stay real far back, maybe get one hook in, get my seatbelt grip. This is called my seatbelt grip. But from this position, they got into a scramble. When he turtled, he was actually able to get the choke from here. And instead of falling forward this way, he was able to come back and use his right knee in between that worked as a hook. So even though he didn't get his hook, he got a leverage point between here. So if you look at the fight, as he's going, he puts the modified rear naked choke and then he leans forward this way. And so look, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull towards the back of my body and I'm still able to get the choke. Okay, this is why he was able to get it. Also, it was a very good advantageous scramble for Impa as he did take him down. The other fight was the other fighter.
That was the Sam Alvey got submitted by Marquez.
By Marquez. Marquez had a different style, different fight. In that one, Alvey, he was practically out.
Yeah.
He was practically out and he finished it from right here. He finished it from right here. So this is the way, like, there's nothing crazy about it.
He was trying to go for a single.
And he just steps back and he just finishes here. So those two happened because of different reasons. The first one was because of the position. He stayed in turtle too long. He was vulnerable. Impa was able to use his knee as a leverage point to get the hook. The second fight with Marquez, he was able to get it because Alvey was pretty much out. He was rocked a few times, and I mean, he took just a few seconds, and then he was completely out with a choke.
So let's start with the Sam Alvey fight, because Sam got submitted, but you said a big reason why the submission worked was because he was already hurt, right? So let's just assume that I'm not hurt, I'm fine, somehow on top of me, and this choke locked in right here. Now, usually, what's the correct defense for this?
Okay, in jiu-jitsu, we always teach our students not to go for the choke without securing any sort of hip control or back control. Doesn't mean I have to get my hooks, but if I can get at least one hook or control the hip or control the back, it's better to go for the choke. Kind of like what Impa did in the first fight. Okay. If you're not, out, you haven't been hit as much, you're ready to counter. We call this the basic rear headlock defense. The basic rear headlock defense we teach to all our students is very simple, very basic, because you're never supposed to try to choke someone without hooks. Okay. All you're going to do is that defense, and that defense in Japanese is called ippon seonagi. Ippon seonagi means it's a shoulder throw. I'm using it in judo, right? I'm using my shoulder to throw you. I'm actually using a lot of my hips, but I'm using the shoulder mainly because my arm is around your neck. Okay. Because we're down in this position, we would call it a drop ippon seonagi. You're dropping to the floor. Okay. So all you would have to do is really grip my forearm, right? Okay, so you have control here, and all you're gonna do is real simple. Because I have no base and I don't have back control or hip control, all you're gonna do is roll over your right shoulder. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And you throw me, and I'm done. That's it. It's that simple. In the fight, he was out, right? But if he wasn't out, if he hadn't been punched, that is the correct defense. In fact, I even think he was on his butt a little bit.
Yeah, he was here.
So even perfect. So the same thing, all you're gonna do is straighten out this leg and curl that foot. And same thing, roll over to your right, to your right, to your right, like that. Perfect. And immediately come up. So that way you don't lose that position. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
So being able to escape the position, to always, guys, never take your eyes off your opponent. So escape to come back. Escape to come back, frame the bicep, and really work that underhook. Okay. And then you're in a good position from there. Okay. So guys, what happens though if you try to escape from the rear naked choke, right? And the guy follows you. He's able to attach his hips behind your back. So you go for that first one, and they kind of stay here now. They're trying to choke you. Well, guess what? You come back up to your turtle. Come back up to your turtle, but do not let go of the form. Come back, come back, come back. Do not let go of this, because any split second you let go, I'm gonna choke. Okay. Come back to the turtle and then dump me over your shoulder. Exactly. And then you're up on top. Okay. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So in jiu-jitsu, guys, you always have to keep moving, right? You never stop. If you stop, you're giving your opponent an opportunity to think. If they're thinking, that's enough time to do something against you. So keep moving. If I'm able to go for this escape and he blocks it, go for the next escape. And if he blocks that, go back to the first escape. And if he blocks that, you keep going back and forth until there's a third option. Maybe there's not a third option. Maybe you're gonna go eventually with one or the other options.
And never turn into the choke, right?
Never turn into the choke, because it's gonna like, so for example, let me get your back real quick. If I have the choke here, guys, if I have the choke here, and my finger that's choking is pointing to the ceiling, you wanna go towards the side that it's pointing, right? So he does not wanna go this side. That's what he means by towards the choke. I'm gonna finish this way. He wants to go towards exactly, because now he can put his back on the mat, now he can see me, and now he can block the bicep and really control the outside half guard, go for different options for here. So remember, in jiu-jitsu, never give your back. Never give your back. You wanna see your opponents, you wanna see the strikes. One could argue, well, you're in a bad position. Well, you're in a worse position if you're going the other way. So you wanna increase your chances of survival, of escaping, of clinching, closing the distance. The closer I am, so one thing's for certain, Marshall's in my striking distance. Anywhere here, he can get hit, right? Same thing with leg kicks. Now, if he connects a position here, it's very hard for me to strike this way, right? Another position, open, very hard for him to strike me this way. Very hard, because I have a position that I'm closing the distance, there's minimal damage. Now, if I'm here, not good position. Yeah. I'm in striking distance, he can kick me, he can knee me. If I'm up, he can knee me. So you have to really understand, I'm either closing the distance or I'm getting away. I don't want to be in between. So, perfect. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys can really study these jiu-jitsu videos and understand what's going on when we see an MMA fight and why it's so hard for the guy who's actually getting choked or armbarred or controlled to escape. It's because there's a lot going on the mat that we don't realize that's happening. So,
thank you.
Thank you, guys.